This is The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa, Internet World, West Alabama. How are you doing today on this wonderful Friday, March 29th? It's another edition of the Joe Gaither Show right here on Bama Central, BamaCentral.com. You're watching us on Twitter, on Facebook, or on YouTube at Joe Gaither 6 or on the Bama Central YouTube channel. Lots of great things happening over there on the Bama Central YouTube channel. Our friends Blake Byler and Katie Wyndham over there getting some great locker room footage from last night's victorious Alabama locker room. Alabama moves on to the Elite Eight, and that is where we're going to start today, and that's where we're going to spend pretty much all our time today. Oh my gosh. You can always find the show at Joe Gaither 6 and on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, on Amazon, the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central. Subscribe, rate, and review the show today. What an amazing night. What an amazing night it was. And I hope you all got your 6 hours of sleep or 4 hours of sleep are unbelievable. I could not get to sleep for quite some time. And so what an exciting night for Alabama, beating North Carolina 89-87. And you had a lot of things happen in this game to enable the upset to happen. Alabama moves on to its second Elite Eight in school history, first since 2004. Pretty much on the backs of Grant Nelson, Ryan Griffin. I mean, basically, it was a who's who. Everybody who's been there all year long. But you said, oh, where's Grant Nelson been the first two rounds of the NCAA tournament? Well, hello, 24 points, 12 rebounds, 5 blocks, and a steal for Mr. Mustache Man. And today, if you're watching us on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook, this mustache is a Grant Nelson mustache inspired by him. So it's a tribute to him. What a great performance for Grant Nelson. And a lot of people, he's been up and down all season long, giving you some great performance. I mean, his first game in an Alabama uniform was really, really good, and then he struggled a bit in non-conference play, and then he struggled through the early part of conference play. He got going. Look, he basically was the engine to win the Auburn home game here in Tuscaloosa. Like, he's had some moments, but what a time for Grant Nelson to really assert himself in this offense. And what a time for Nate Oates to pull the trigger and basically say, okay, Grant Nelson, we're going to go retro mode and send you back into North Dakota State in Grant Nelson mode, play you in that sort of role off the ball. We're not going to send you, we're not really going to put you against Baycott that much. He was more against Harrison Ingram and more against Elliot Cadeau. He kind of served as the help defender a good bit in the game. And so it was great to see him really kind of thrust back into, hey, let's put you back into, let's put you into a role that you performed very, very well in North Dakota State. And you really haven't had a chance to play in that much at Alabama because of the personnel, because of the limited options in the Alabama front court. So, Grant, you get to play this help-style defense, and he helps a lot on Armando Baycott. And I know Baycott still had a pretty nice game, 19 points and 12 rebounds for him, but you knew he was going to get his. You knew it. We went into the game talking about limiting the outside players, limiting the other players not named Armando Baycott, and really Alabama did a decent job. I mean, come on. This is the Alabama defense we're talking about. They weren't going to turn into, Houston overnight. They weren't going to turn into UConn overnight. They battled their tails off, and they improved. It was a great game. I mean, it was a coaching masterclass from Nate Oates and his, and really, I think, his coaching staff, his analytics staff. And I think, unfortunately, look, I got a lot of respect for Hubert Davis, but I think he put Hubert Davis in a body bag, honestly, from a coaching standpoint. Why in the world, Hubert Davis, do you look at the scouting report and do you look at what happened, what Alabama has done, and you can be like C.J. Watson today and chime in on the Facebook side? And C.J. Watson, roll tide, Joe, roll tide to you, C.J. Thanks for watching. What are you doing, Hubert Davis? Looking at the scouting report and saying, okay, this is one of the, top 5 fastest teams in the country. And you look at yourself 1 to 5 and you say, okay, our starting 5 is really carrying our load all year long. And our starting 5 is really, really dang good. really good. I mean, you saw it last night through a great stretch. What did the starting five have? Starting five had 8, 17, 16, 19, and 12. I mean, come on, 4 of the 5 are in double figures. They're really good. They're really good first 5. It starts to drop off when you get down into the bench. But Hubert Davis, what are you doing? You said, oh, we can run with Alabama. No, Alabama dug into the Carolina bench and dug into the Carolina depth. And you got Armando Bacot in just a little bit of foul trouble. And I think Hubert Davis played the book. So by the book. Armando Bacon had 3 fouls. When did he get his third foul? Let me pull it up. He got his third foul and he left the game. His third foul coming from the bottom. Yeah, at 14:45. Yeah, 14:45 left in the game, and Carolina is up 57 to 43. From there, he basically plays a span of. He basically plays a span. He misses 6 minutes of the game. He misses 6 minutes of the game, and from there, Alabama kind of digs into the game a good bit. When they put him back in, it's too little, too late. He subs back in at 10:24, and it's tied up. He goes in, and he basically stays in there the rest of the game, but he's ineffective. I think that Alabama's pace really took Armando Bacot out of the game. And I think Alabama's pace really should put a big stressor on RJ Davis. You look at RJ Davis, and he went 16 points. That's not a bad number. Go a little deeper in the box score, and it's 4 of 20 from the floor, 0 of 9 from the 3-point line. And you ask, okay, he did have 7 assists, and he did protect the basketball, only 1 turnover. But most of his points came from the free throw line, 8 of 9 from the free throw line. I think Alabama's pace really took a toll on Carolina's legs throughout the entirety of the game, especially on Armando Bacot and RJ Davis when they had the kind of lion's share of the offensive load for Carolina. If you're Hubert Davis, I don't understand why you decided, we think we can run with Alabama. We should run with Alabama. They shot what? How many threes did they say? Did they end up with 36 three-point attempts in the game? Is that what it was? 32. And I think they averaged something like 25. So you're shooting more threes than you usually shoot. You don't get to the free throw line. They got to the free throw line 17 times. Their average was 22. You don't get to the free throw line near as much. That tells me you are not playing a half-court game. You're not getting good shots. Your second half percentage, oh my gosh. I mean, yeah, you shot the lights out in the first half, and that really scared I think that really scared a lot of Alabama people. But in the second half, you shot 25% from the floor. You were 10 of 40. You made the 10 buckets in live action in the second half. I really question. I mean, I know Hubert Davis won a lot of games there. He's only 3 years into his tenure, and didn't he win a national championship in his first year as a head coach? Yeah. And so like, yeah. No, they were Final Four. Oh no, they were Final Four in 2022. They were Final Four in 2022. So he didn't get all the way there, but I mean I just think that Nate Oates put him in a body bag. I think that Nate Oates basically said, okay, Elliot Cadeau, Seth Trimble, Jalen Withers, we're going to not guard you. And they almost made you pay for it. I mean, Cadeau made made what, 2 of 5. He made two 3-pointers in the first half. Seth Trimble, he really did make you pay for it. He was 2 of 2. He didn't try to take another shot. But Jalen Withers was 0 of 1. Basically, you help off of those guys who struggled from the floor, and they were hesitant to shoot the basketball, especially in the second half. You let the other guys, you put the weight on the other guys, and really, Nate Oates, my only complaint really comes with Cormac Ryan. It came with Cormac Ryan. Look, Cormac Ryan, you knew. We talked about him going through the week. We joked about him with Blake Byler. He was, 5 of 8 from the 3-point line. Is that what I have? Yeah, Cormac, 5 of 8 from the 3-point line, 17 points, 2 free throws. Like, this guy is really capable of lighting it up, and he did. I was impressed by Cormac, though, after the game. Highly complimentary of Alabama, but highly complimentary of the rest of his North Carolina teammates, not letting his teammates get down on themselves in the post-game press conference. So while I wanted to kind of be Cormac Ryan, you're on the villain list. He really was very classy in defeat. But no, Alabama, you got in the huddle after Cormac Ryan gets a handful of buckets, and Rylan Griffin says, "Okay, we got to figure this out. I'm going to go guard Cormac Ryan," and he does. And in the second half, Cormac has what did he have? He only 5 points, 1 of 3. So of his 5 3-point makes, 1 came in the second half. So really, you got to compliment this Alabama coaching staff for the game plan going into the game, the adjustments that they continually made throughout the course of the game, especially on the defensive end. I think it was an impressive win, just impressive. I mean, and then to get to the end, you get to the very end, and it's 35 seconds left, and Grant has made his layup from the block, and he makes his 3-pointer, the and one. Alabama goes up 89-87, and Carolina brings it back across the floor. 35 seconds left. You basically have one defensive stop for your season. One stop for your season, and look, if you get to choose, would you rather have to make a bucket to extend your season or get a stop to extend your season? I think everybody who's been watching Alabama is more confident in them getting that bucket than getting the stop. But that's what they got last night out there in Los Angeles. They got the stop. Grant Nelson got a big old block on RJ Davis, one of his 5 blocks in the game. Just an incredible performance. They forced a shot clock violation, and it was basically over from there. Alabama gets the ball in bounds. Grant Nelson misses both free throws, actually, ironically, and the game is over, and you're into your first Elite Eight. So, I was highly impressed with Nate Oates and with his coaching, with the game plan and the execution of that game plan. It was so fun to see. Look, I went into the game. I know we talked about it on the show all week. We both Blake Byler and myself picked North Carolina to win the game a couple days ago, but I thought it was going to be a tall task, and I thought, dude, there's no way that Alabama's going to win this game. They're not going to be able to make the amount of 3-point shots that they're going to make. They're not going to be able to defend Armando Bacot. I think North Carolina played into their hands a great deal, and Alabama did make enough 3-point shots, and really it was surprising. I mean, the first half it was Carolina making 62% of their 3-pointers. Yeah, 10 of 16. They made 10 3-pointers in their first half. So it was Carolina, not Alabama, making all the threes. Alabama only 7 of 14. I mean, that's pretty good, 50% in the first half. But they were getting, a little bit. They were getting shot out a little bit by Carolina, just hanging in there. Just impressed by the poise for Alabama to hang in there. And it makes me think about the losses that Alabama took through this year. The 3 December losses, back to back to back. Purdue, Creighton, Arizona. And you saw Arizona go down. And we'll talk about the Clemson opponent here in a little bit. But the 3 losses in December, I mean, did it stink? Did it make for a miserable 3 weeks? Did it make for a lot of people on Twitter and social media clowning Alabama? You can't beat a good team. You can't beat a good team. Yeah, absolutely. And they go through the year. They go up to Knoxville and get their doors blown off. Yeah, you beat Auburn at home, but you go down to the jungle and get your doors blown off again. You go over to Kentucky, get your doors blown off again. It became, lesson after lesson after lesson after lesson. And I think these 3 games right now through the tournament, the NCAA tournament, you've seen some of these lessons that Alabama's been learning all year long really kind of manifest themselves through the year. I mean, I think this really reminded me, the Grant Nelson performance really reminded me of that Auburn game at home where he kind of said second half, okay, I had, I've been pushed around a little bit. I'm going to go make some plays. And he got double-digit scoring in the second half. He really, Nate Oates said, you're playing man-to-man, you're switching all the screens. We're going to switch him onto a good matchup. We're going to let him slash to the basket and get after it. And Grant Nelson basically rose to the challenge. I was highly impressed with Grant Nelson's maturity and impressed with the team. I mean, you've learned a lot. You've taken a lot of hard lessons through the year. It's been a huge challenge all year long, and it's manifested itself into an Elite Eight performance. And really, goodness gracious, the Final Four, it is right in front of you. We'll talk about Clemson here in a minute. But first, let's go back to yesterday's show. Yesterday's show was all about the Carolina game and all about the keys to winning the game. It basically was a one-segment show. It was here's the 3 keys. Thanks for playing. Good night. We'll talk to you tomorrow. The 3 keys were Alabama making 14 3-point shots or more, or making 30% or more from behind the line, preferably both. But what did Alabama end up doing? They were 11 of 26, so they were below the 14. But what were they? They were 42% from beyond the arc. So they're efficient. I mean, they're shooting and making at a high rate and a high clip. It's 42%, perfect. Boom, check marked off that goal. And then number two was nobody fouls out. And really, the reason for that was twofold. You wanted, obviously, Nate Oates to have flexibility of his lineups in order to, affect the game with his own coaching and with his own personnel, not allow North Carolina to dictate to Alabama. And then secondarily, North Carolina made free throws at a 75% clip throughout the entire season. And great on you. Also, it's a great quality to have. That's the reason why you're not a number 1 seed. But they also, in addition to their high make percentage, got to the free throw line at a 22 times per game. 22 times per game. Alabama put Grand Canyon on the free throw line, 36 times in the round of 32. That could not be an area where North Carolina could gain an advantage in this game. You had to kind of keep that to a minimum. So what happened? Alabama had nobody foul out. I guess big old check mark, green mark there. But Nick Pringle and Mohamed Diabate both flirted with 4 fouls each. It kind of a little bit limiting NATO. It's just a little bit, but it was more so Nick Pringle on the ankle injury. And goodness gracious, you hope that Nick Pringle can get a day's worth of rest before he plays again. It looks like a foot, ankle, heel bruise is kind of bothering him right there. So you had a little bit of limitation on the bench, and you had to praise really the entire team for banding together and making it work, especially with Latrell Wrightsell missing missing yesterday as well. But really on the other end, the more important end, North Carolina only got to the free throw line 17 times, 15 and 17. So they're making it at their same high rate, or just like we said they would, but only 17 times. What's that? 5? Yeah, 5 below their season average. And you're not putting them on the free throw line to 36 times like you did against Grand Canyon. There's a lot to be said for that. I mean, Grant Nelson keeping himself out of foul trouble. I mean, you expect it a bit with Nick Pringle. You've seen him foul out of a million games this year. Mohamed Wague didn't get a chance to foul out. I think he kind of got a little bit of a knock as well. He played what? He played 5 minutes in the whole game. Is that it? 2 minutes in the whole game. I mean, that's kind of is what it is with Wague at this point with his injured foot. So, I was really impressed with that area too. I guess you could argue that Alabama did get into foul trouble, but I would say they did a really good job, comparatively speaking, to their entire year, not getting guys fouled out. So another green check mark there. Alabama's still in the game. And the last thing was you have to go 11 or fewer turnovers. We talked about going 11 or fewer turnovers because Carolina was able to get in transition and score in transition, but also you wanted to give your defense a good chance, and you wanted to end most possessions with shots or at the free throw line. Alabama went into halftime with 7 turnovers, and they were down by 8 at halftime. So it was, you're going, you multiply by 2, 7 times, you're on pace for 14. You're on pace for higher than, you're on pace to miss that goal. And maybe if you had hit 14 turnovers in a 2-point game, maybe the Alabama Crimson Tide would be flying back from Los Angeles to Tuscaloosa today. But no, they only have 3 turnovers in the second half. And with 10 total turnovers, another green check mark there, 3 for 3 on the keys to the game, and Alabama wins. I mean, was it the prettiest game ever? No, it wasn't, but you got the job done. And I'm just really, really impressed with the character of this year's team. I mean, goodness gracious. You think back to middle of February, and Alabama was right there in the driver's seat to win the SEC regular season championship. Latrell Wrightsell gets the head injury, and the wheels start to maybe loosen up a little bit, squeaky wheels. You take the loss. You take the loss at home to Tennessee. You lose the league. You lose down on the road to Florida. You lose over at Kentucky. Like the wheels start to fall off without Latrell Wrightsell, and then Rylan Griffin has his little calf injury. Look, you've been dealing with front court problems all year long with Pringle and Waikiki, whether it be injury or suspension. So you're used to it. Just impressive. Let's go to CJ Watson on the comments section. At halftime, I actually felt really good about this game. The pace absolutely favored Alabama. I knew there was no way North Carolina could keep up that pace. 10 threes in the first half. They don't average 10 threes a game. It's not their style. They played Bama ball in the first half, and so did Bama. Bama was a point better than their scoring average at half, despite lots of turnovers. After the half, North Carolina cooled dramatically and never found their normal rhythm because they haven't played their game yet. Exactly. It was just, I think, silly of Hubert Davis to try to play into Alabama style. Look, if you ask any basketball person, 1 through 5, North Carolina is better than Alabama 1 through 5. But when you play Alabama style, and Alabama plays into what they got. You got Walters on the court as well. You got Diabate with 9 minutes. You got Stevenson with 9 minutes. So really, you got into 8. I think Alabama's 6, 7, and 8 were better than North Carolina's 6, 7, and 8. And really and truly, I think Alabama's outside of North Carolina's first 3, you take RJ Davis, Armando Bacot, and maybe Cormac Ryan or Harrison Ingram. Pick one of the 2. Those 3 are probably better. 1, 2, 3. But after that, Alabama in the 4th position, all the way down to the 8th position, down to their bench, was better than North Carolina. And Hubert Davis, I think, played into that in a huge way, and that let Alabama continue on to the Elite Eight. So it's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to be able to follow Blake Byler and Katie Wyndham, who are out in L.A. right now. They were in the locker room, and they're going to be watching practice today. They're going to be talking to Coach Nate Oates and company here in a little bit. Let me look at that schedule real quick. That's going to be happening at about 5:30 or so, our time, and you can follow that at BamaCentral and on the BamaCentral YouTube channel. So look, it's a short episode right here because we're going to do an episode tomorrow as well. We're going to have our first 2025 recruit on the program later in the afternoon. We're going to have Luke Metz. Luke Metz, a linebacker out of Georgia, committed to Alabama last week, and we're going to have him on the program. We're going to play it for you tomorrow. And so it's going to be a shorter episode. But let's take a short look at Clemson. Let's take a short look at Clemson. It's the Elite Eight matchup. Elite Eight matchup. It's a rematch of a November game. It's the ACC SEC Challenge. Put yourself back in Coleman Coliseum in November. Oh, wait, you weren't there. Nobody was there. It says on the stat sheet that 10,000 people were in Coleman Coliseum that night, but I do not believe it. I don't believe it at all. You remember Jay Williams talking about, it sounds like a tennis match in here. Well, Clemson wins the ACC SEC Challenge, and it's like the first loss of was that the first or the second loss of the year? That was the second loss of the year. It was the first at home. Okay, and so you just lost to Ohio State. The second loss of the year. Your first home loss early in the season. You're 5 and now 2. It's going to be a lot of fun. Carolina, look, Clemson didn't shoot. There's no way Clemson shoots the same way that they shot here in Coleman Coliseum. They were 11 of 21 from 3, 52%. You're going to get a second chance at PJ Hall. That was really Alabama's first big man challenge of the year. Obviously they went on to face Kalkbrenner and Zach Edey, and they went on to face Ballo and all the guys in the SEC. But PJ Hall, at the time, you didn't really think of him as a dominant big man, but here they are in the Elite Eight as well, and they have worked their way through the ACC season. They finished 3rd in the ACC this year. Just really, really strong season for Clemson. I think the game goes a lot differently than it did here in Tuscaloosa. You look at the overall, you think back to it, Alabama shot fairly well, 31% from three, 11 of 35. Not as good as they did, not as good as they did last night in Los Angeles. The rebounding battle, 41 apiece. Alabama only turned the ball over 7 times. So really, you think about where did they get beat? It was the efficiency factor of the three-point line. You lost, by 8 points. Clemson shot 52% from behind the arc, 11 of 21. They only got to the free throw line 15 times. They were 10 of 15. Alabama won that margin. So really and truly, do you think you can defend the three-point line better? Can you get after it on Saturday and defend the three-point line better? Look, if you did it against North Carolina, I don't think there's going to be any leaving a whole lot of guys wide open. You looked at what Clemson did here in Coleman Coliseum, and you had 3 guys. You had Joseph Girard with 4 of 7. You had Chase Hunter go 3 of 5, and PJ Hall went 3 of 5. So those 3 guys basically dominated from deep. That's what, 4, 7, 10. That's 10. It's 10 threes. 10 of the 11 threes from those 3 guys alone. I think it puts a huge emphasis on Nick Pringle's foot. Nick Pringle's foot over the next 48 hours is going to be a huge subject of conversation. Can he be healthy enough to hang in there against PJ Hall? And if so, do you leave Grant Nelson in the role that you had him in last night against North Carolina? Kind of that help defender where he's kind of on the worst offensive player and he can kind of roll him around and create a little bit of havoc. If so, I think you're going to have a real good chance against Clemson. You see the line right now. It started at Alabama -1.5. It's gone to 3.5. I think that it's going to continue to grow. If you're a gambling man or woman listening or watching the show, I think you need to move on it quickly because I think Alabama and the line is going to continue to grow. But goodness gracious, brace yourselves. Brace yourselves. It's going to Clemson's going to play well. They're going to play fundamental basketball. It's going to be a slower game. Let's look at old Kenny Pomeroy. Kenny Pomeroy says Clemson's the 19th best team in the country, and they have the 24th best offense with the 33rd most efficient defense. Now, do we have pace here? Adjusted tempo. Yeah, Clemson is 257th in adjusted tempo. Where are we with Alabama? 104. Nope, wrong category. 10th in adjusted tempo. 104 in defense is right next to it. They're 10th in tempo. So it's going to be a clash of tempo and a clash of styles again. Alabama avoided the clash of styles in the second round with St. Mary's. I think Grand Canyon played ugly, but they played fast. They're going to want to slow it down, Clemson, and will surely they watched North Carolina and said, oh, they ran with Alabama, and that didn't work for them. Surely they're going to be trying to play closer to their tempo, which is what I think that's 66 possessions a game. I think that's comparatively to 72 possessions a game is what that's supposed to mean, 72.2, 72.8. For Alabama. Let's see. The second, let's see who's the fastest team in the country. Fastest team in the country was Western Kentucky. Oh, man. Alabama is the number 10 in tempo, and they're the only team left in the tournament. The next fastest team in the tournament is Illinois at 69th. It's 69th. So Illinois with a big old win last night over Iowa State. I know Iowa State was a popular pick to upset UConn. UConn beating the brakes off of San Diego State again, winning by 30. UConn looking like every bit the favorite in this tournament. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Alabama, can you beat Clemson and get to Phoenix to take on the winner of UConn and Illinois? It's probably going to be UConn with UConn on Saturday. It's going to be a whole lot of fun, and we'll be covering it right here at BamaCentral.com. So I'm going to get out of here for the day. I'm going to prepare for my interview with Luke Metz. Luke Metz, a 4-star linebacker out of Georgia, committed to the University of Alabama, class of 2025. He'll be our first 2025 recruit on the show. So we're excited about talking to Luke Metz. You can follow him. Let me pull up his Twitter so I can go ahead and get that pumping a little bit. Luke Metz, you can follow him at Luke Metz25 on Twitter and let him know you're excited about hearing from him later on in the afternoon or in the morning, depending on when you guys take in the show. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm going to get out of here for the day. You're going to follow everybody. Alabama plays baseball. South Carolina tonight. They beat South Carolina last night. Crimson Tide lost to Kentucky in softball. Oh, they're going to take on game number 2 against Kentucky tonight as well. So you can follow our coverage at BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com for those as well. We'll be out of here for the day. I'll come back with another edition of the Joe Gaither Show with Luke Metz, class of 2025 linebacker, right here on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com.